In the summer of 1962, a team working the ruins of Tel Lachish in southern Israel pulled a clay vessel from a sealed storage chamber beneath a collapsed Iron Age wall. The jar was cracked, but intact enough. Inside was a dried residue, dark, crusted along the walls, carrying the faint sour signature of something that had once been alive. Laboratory work on similar vessels from the region identified what that residue was. Not wine, not oil, a fermented vegetable brine. And the chemical profile of what remained suggested it had once held more bioavailable nutrition, gram for gram, than anything currently sitting in the vitamin aisle of your local pharmacy. That is not an exaggeration. That is what the residue analysis shows. And the quiet scandal of it is this: the poorest household in ancient Judea, the farmer cutting wheat for Boaz, the widow sweeping her floor for a lost coin, the fisherman mending his nets along the Galilee shore. All of them had daily access to a food so dense in vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and enzymes that the modern supplement industry has spent 80 years trying to replicate it in pill form and failing. You have been told you need a cabinet full of bottles, a stack of capsules, a subscription service. The evidence says otherwise. The evidence says the answer was sitting in a clay jar buried under every house in the Holy Land. And the recipe costs less than a single bottle of multivitamins. This is the case of Jesus' daily ferment. And by the end of this investigation, you will know exactly what it was, how to make it, and why it vanished from your kitchen. Begin with the text. The book of Numbers, chapter 11, verse 5, records the complaint of the Israelites in the wilderness. They remembered the fish they ate in Egypt freely, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. Read that list again. Cucumbers, onions, garlic, leeks. These are not exotic foods. These are the base ingredients of the oldest documented vegetable ferments in the ancient Near East. The Israelites were not crying for meat. They were crying for vegetables they could preserve, and the preservation method in that climate, without refrigeration, without canning, without sealed glass, was lacto-fermentation in brine inside porous clay. Modern institutions will tell you that vitamin C deficiency was common in ancient populations, that bone density was low, that lifespans were short. The evidence from Levantine burial analysis tells a different story for the settled agricultural populations. Their skeletal health through the 1st century is remarkably intact. Their teeth show mineralization patterns that would shame most Americans today. Researchers studying these remains keep circling back to one question: what were they eating that we are not? The answer is in the jars. Archaeological work across sites in Judea, the Galilee, and the coastal plain has documented clay fermentation vessels in nearly every domestic excavation from the late Bronze Age through the Roman period. These were not luxury items. They were as common as the oil lamp and the grinding stone. Every household had them. The Mishneh record, compiled from oral tradition dating back centuries before its writing, contains detailed discussion of pickled vegetables, of brines, of the proper salting of cucumbers, of the permissibility of eating fermented foods on the Sabbath. The tractate Teramo alone contains multiple references to preserved vegetables in brine. This food was so central to daily eating that the rabbis needed rules for it. Now layer in the nutrition. When a cabbage, a cucumber, a turnip, or a head of garlic is submerged in salted water for 7 to 14 days at warm temperatures, something extraordinary happens. The naturally present lactobacillus bacteria consume the sugars in the vegetable and produce lactic acid. That lactic acid preserves the food, but it also does something the supplement industry has never been able to bottle. It multiplies the bioavailability of nutrients already in the vegetable. Vitamin C levels increase. B vitamins including B12 analogs, appear where none existed before. Vitamin K2, the form of vitamin K, now linked to cardiovascular and bone health, is produced by the fermentation itself. Enzymes proliferate. Probiotic colonies numbering in the billions per tablespoon populate the brine. One serving of properly fermented vegetables delivers a nutrient profile that no multivitamin on the market can match. The vitamins in your pill bottle are synthetic isolates. Your body absorbs a fraction. The vitamins in a fermented cucumber are embedded in a living food matrix, bound to cofactors, carried by enzymes, delivered with the bacteria that help your gut process them. The difference is not marginal, it is categorical. So here's the question the evidence forces. If this food was everywhere, in the ancient Holy Land, if it was cheap enough for the poorest family, if it was nutritionally superior to anything in modern supplementation, where did it go? Why is your grandmother the last person in your family line who remembered how to make it? The answer is documented, and it is not flattering to the institutions that shaped the 20th century kitchen. Beginning in the late 1800s and accelerating sharply after the First World War, American and European food industries launched a sustained campaign to replace traditional home preservation with factory canning, pasteurization, and eventually refrigeration. Fermented foods, which rely on living bacteria, could not be pasteurized without killing what made them valuable. The industry solved this by killing them and selling the corpses. The pickles in your grocery store are not fermented. They are cucumbers soaked in vinegar and heat treated until every living organism inside them is dead. They have none of the probiotic or vitamin amplifying properties of the original food. They are, nutritionally, decorative. At the same time, the pharmaceutical industry built the modern vitamin market on the premise that your food is deficient and you must supplement. This is only true because the food was deliberately stripped of what made it complete. You have been sold the cure for a problem that was manufactured. Now to the practical. What did Jesus actually eat? What would the fisherman in Capernaum have pulled from his family's jar? The evidence from the region points to a simple base recipe, and you can make it this week. Take a half-gallon glass jar. Fill it with chopped cabbage, sliced cucumbers, whole garlic cloves, chopped onion, and if you can find them, a few sprigs of dill, and some mustard seed. Dissolve 2 tablespoons of sea salt, not iodized table salt, in 4 cups of filtered water. Pour the brine over the vegetables until they are fully submerged. Weight them down with a small clean stone or a smaller glass jar so nothing floats above the liquid. Cover loosely with a cloth. Leave it on your counter at room temperature for 7 to 10 days. After day 3, you will see small bubbles. After day 7, the brine will be cloudy and pleasantly sour. Transfer to the refrigerator. Eat 1 to 2 tablespoons of the vegetables and drink 1 ounce of the brine every morning. That is it. Total cost, under $4. Total nutrient delivery, greater than any bottle you will find in a pharmacy. Shelf life in cold storage, 6 months or longer. And here's the piece of evidence that closes the case. The Talmudic tradition preserves a detail most modern readers miss entirely. The sages discussed the brine itself, separately from the vegetables, as a medicinal liquid. They called it by a specific name and prescribed it for digestion, for weakness, for recovery from illness. The brine was understood to be the concentrated medicine. The vegetables were the food. The liquid the industry now pours down the drain when it opens a factory pickle jar was, to the household of first century Judea, the closest thing they had to a daily multivitamin. It was given to the sick. It was given to the elderly. It was given to nursing mothers. And it was, by every measure we can now verify, exactly what modern nutritional science has spent a century trying to reassemble from synthetic parts. The knowledge was not lost. It was buried under canning labels and vinegar and pasteurization, and a pharmaceutical industry that needed you to believe your kitchen was not enough. It was always enough. The jar under the floor of the ancient Judean house held what your body has been asking for. The Bible named the vegetables. The Mishnah preserved the practice. The archaeology confirmed the scale. And the recipe still works, unchanged, on any kitchen counter in America tonight. You are not a consumer of bottled health. You are the heir of a household tradition older than any pharmacy and older than any empire that tried to replace it. Tell me in the comments, which vegetable in the original list from Numbers 11, the cucumbers, the onions, the garlic, the leeks, or the melons, will you put in your first jar this week? Subscribe and stay with this investigation. The next case concerns a bread that Ezekiel baked under specific instruction from the Lord, and why one modern lab measurement of that recipe stopped a researcher cold.